Hello, friends. This is Gustavo Lopes, and you're welcome to Soccer with Gus. I apologize at the beginning for not having a post game video last week. I'm sick, just coughing my brains out. I'm still a little sick. You guys gonna see me coughing throughout the video. I'm probably not gonna edit it out, but we're here as promised to the midweek video to talk about the New England Revolution, Colin Porter, and everything that's involving this team at this point. And that's why I brought my friend for the hard questions, Caleb Pongratz from Pros International. Caleb, thank you for joining me again.
Thank you for having me on again. Glad to be here. Glad to talk Revs again.
Let's start with how we saw the game, last week's game. We're both there. We're both there for the press conference as well. A 1-0 loss to Columbus Crew, which is honestly not expected because they expected was to lose about 2 or 3 goals of difference, but 1-0, great result in my eyes. How would you saw that game?
I think it was a good game, a good result. Kind of just scrappy overall. I think New England came into the game knowing that they were going to defend. Last year they lost to them in a combined score of 9-1. So to get a 1-0 result against them, a loss, unfortunately, but 1-0 is a lot better than a combined score of 9-1 loss over 2 games. So already better than last year, but definitely weren't as good as I had hoped.
And just talking about media standpoint, right? This was your first credential game for the New England Revolution. I've been getting credential for 5 seasons now, 5 or 6 seasons. How was the experience? And because I don't sit in the same place as y'all, where the rest of the media, because I do the broadcast, so I sit in a different side of the field. How was the experience for you?
I think it was really cool. It was good. I was set up next to Seth Maycomber and Sam Mitten with the Blazing Musket. I was sat next to them, so I was around a lot of the media guys that I had spoken to over the last couple of years. Frank Delapa from the Boston Globe, who sat behind me. So it's pretty cool to like finally be in that space, be one with the reporting world. Everyone was super inviting, super friendly, and I think overall it was a good time.
For people that don't know, the most of the media sits in the blue level in behind one of the corner flags, which is that's the north stand, if I'm not wrong, or the south stand.
Yeah, it's the opposite side of where the supporters groups are. So it's the if you're in the supporters group section, it's the upper right corner.
Yeah, looking up. Yeah, I sit at the TV broadcast booth, which is right at midfield on a 100 level, which is a nice view. Uh, but yeah, picking up from what you just said about the game, the Revolution didn't play bad, especially in defense. They were able to hold Columbus, which is a team that's still trying to figure out how to play without Cucho, right? They just lost Cucho, so that's a big miss. But still, the New Revolution had a hard time on offense, and that's something that we got to look at because the team could not produce. And now, just jumping a little bit into the press conference too, where Caleb Porter says that the team was pretty close to victory or was a tie game for both sides, which I completely disagree with him.
Yeah, I mean, the game was just again a battle. I think the expected goals for both sides, like neither group was above zero point 0.5, which is pretty good for either team to hold the other to below zero point 0.5. Columbus outshot New England 9-4. I've seen other reports of it being 8-5, but Columbus had majority of possession throughout the game. I agree with your sentiment that I don't think New England was ever close to victory in this game. I think a draw is more realistic.
Yep.
The one goal they allowed that Jackson Russell scored was off of a defensive miscue. Came from a Columbus Crew throw-in and then a counterattack. So I think that needed to be addressed throughout the week. But for Caleb Porter to say that New England was close to victory, I disagree with. Maybe if you take into account them potentially getting a penalty kick, but at the same time, no, I think this game had a draw written all over it. There was one opportunity that Leo Campagna had where he was slipped in behind from a free kick. But again, I don't think anything stood out that said New England should have won this game.
Yeah, we talk about the penalty kicking a little bit, but one of the first things I noticed is that with 6 minutes of a game, first, a lot of people have been having different feelings about the Ring of Revolution games. Like, for example, a lot of people said that the team played well. A lot of people said the team didn't play well. A lot of people saying that Jacksonville had a great game. Some other people, including me, think he didn't have his best game. Same with Yusuf. So there's not a pattern there. And one thing I want to mention is that with 6 minutes of game, the ball possession was 98% to Columbus and 2% for the Revs, which they had like a touch or two in the ball. So when I see a stat like that, means that the team either was not prepared for what was coming, or the team had no identity or didn't know what they were supposed to do. Because I hardly believe the color portrait said just let them have the ball for the first 10 minutes, right? So in matter to identity or pattern, have you figured out what's the ref style play or what they're supposed to do, especially in that game? Because I didn't feel like they had a plan at all.
I mean, again, it's early. We're only into the second game of the year. This New England Revolution team kind of reminds me of uh, the Nashville the Nashville team that entered the league a couple of years ago. They ended the season in the playoffs, but they had a lot of draws. I think this team's identity is to be strong defensively and look to be successful on the counter. But again, it's kind of hard to say after two games they have no goals to come for it and they've only allowed one. So defensively they look great, in my opinion, but offensively they need to start clicking. So I think we'll get a real sense of their identity once we get more offense. If the offense comes, hopefully it does. But once that offense comes, we'll kind of get a better idea of what Caleb Porter's game model is like.
Yeah, and you talk a little bit about the timing. Um, there's a few different thoughts on that, right? Again, different feelings because some people like me cannot take into cannot disregard what happened last year, right? Where the team had that failure of a campaign. Some other people can totally forget what happened last year and only count that those guys are together for 6 weeks. So I want to see how you view that. Can we disregard what happened last year? And how much time is time to actually go after Caleb for results? When can we ask him for results?
I think definitely you don't shy away of what happened last year. Caleb Porter's entering the year with a worse record than what Brad Friedel had during his time with the New England Revolution. So you definitely have to keep that in the back of your mind. However, again, this roster has had a ton of turnover. 19 or 18 players gone, 19 if you count Thiago Suarez on loan for the entire season. 13 new guys, 14 if you include inter squad promotions from Revs 2. Um, I think Caleb Porter is definitely starting the season on a leash, and he knows that. He's been very outspoken towards supporters that he's aware of what happened last year and doesn't want that product to continue. And I think 2 games in, I think it's too early to start calling for either his job or for better results. I mean, I think come April, mid-April, late April would probably be a more realistic time if the Revs are still struggling. And I look back again to the Brad Friedel era when Brad Friedel was fired after an abysmal, I believe it was the 2017 season. He got until May 3rd or May 4th of that following season and then was relieved of his duties. Obviously, he was replaced by Bruce Arena, and I think when New England did that, when New England made that decision, they had a contingency in place. So I think with this group, you have to kind of be smart in the decision making side of it. If their decision is to move on from Caleb Porter, they need to know a contingency plan and be prepared for that. But like I said, I think it's too early to do that at this moment.
I'm looking at the schedule right now. Until May 4th, the New England Revolution has 8 games, and that includes Philadelphia Union, New York City, Red Bulls, Cincinnati, Atlanta, No, sorry. It goes Philadelphia Union, New York City, New York Red Bulls, Cincinnati, Atlanta, New York City again, Charlotte, Toronto. Yeah, Toronto was on May 3rd. So those are the 8 games. Uh, my cap, it's the end of March. It's actually April 5th against Cincinnati. So there's a lot of discussion, and I tell you why I think it's April 5th, because you're gonna have like 2 more games at home that you need to win those. And if you want to take a decision on a head coach, you gotta be as soon as you can to have chance to turn the year around. Because if you're gonna go into the second semester to then make a change, I think that would be very problematic for the team. And if you go into April, you can have time to set up a new coach for the transfer window, uh, and then so they can bring him guys that he like. But not saying that Kelly Porter is going to be fired. I'm just saying, in my opinion, he has a whole month to bring something different to the team that we haven't seen yet. Because I personally think that 8 weeks, which is right now, it's more than enough to have like a little bit of a spark. And then by then it's gonna be like 3 or 4 months of them being together. So that's a little different. So March 8th, New Revolution, Philadelphia. March 15th, Revs at New York City, and then Red Bulls at home on the 29th. How many points can we get, or should we expect to get from those three games?
I think just to answer your question prior to that, in those 8 games, 5 of those teams were playoff teams. So if you think about it in an overarching view of the first 10 games of the season, 6 of them are against playoff teams. So of last year. So if you want to compete, I think they definitely need to get results. That's why I kind of gave the longer window. But closing in, looking closer to what's upcoming. They have a matchup at home against Philadelphia Union, then away at NYCFC, and then home against the reigning Eastern Conference final, reigning Eastern Conference final champions in the New York Red Bulls. Philadelphia, I think, is a game that will be difficult. They're the hottest team in the league right now. They have 8 goals scored. I think the next closest is, I believe, Bruce Arena's San Jose with 6. I think this is a game where it will be dependent on the Revs' defense. And I think the Revs' defense has been quite strong. It'll be a counterattack heavy game against Philadelphia. I think if the New England Revolution team shows up to defend and they play their chances, Philadelphia will have holes. I think this is a game where New England should sneak away with at least a point. And looking ahead, they then will play New York City FC. It's another team that, again, it's always difficult to play at NYCFC on the baseball field. They played against LAFC. They've played against Inter Miami. They tied against Inter Miami when they were down to 10 men for, I think it was 77 minutes.
Yeah, Miami was down to 10 minutes.
67 minutes. Miami was down to 10 men, and they drew that game. So it's always difficult to play at NYCFC. I think that'll be a tough game just because on the field and the conditions. But again, that's another team that New England should get at least a draw, let alone 3 points against. And then the third game, that's Red Bull. Red Bull is the reigning champs of the Eastern Conference. They've had an interesting offseason. They lost 1-0 to Cincinnati, but they beat Nashville 2-0. And New England weren't able to find the back of the net against Nashville. So that's another game that would be difficult to call. I think that would be the hardest of the 3 games that you mentioned, but it's all dependent on how New England's attack clicks.
Now that we've painted this scenario for the upcoming games, right? Why do you think this offense hasn't clicked yet? It's just chemistry, is tactical. What have you seen from these teams so far?
It's a little bit of a combination. I think that the team definitely is clicking. They have glimpses, like we've seen glimpses of them being successful throughout their preseason. I think the moments will come. Obviously, Some of these players are still getting used to their specific play styles. Some of these guys have been together for 6 weeks. Others have only been with the group for 3 or 4 weeks. There was a moment in the Revs game this past weekend where Eli Feingold had a ton of space and he played a ball in behind where he should have driven into space because he thought Ganago would have made a run where he didn't. And I think if we fast forward to like June or July, I think that play is a completely different outcome. So I think this group is still trying to find its rhythm. I think it will be interesting to see the dynamic when certain players come back from injury. Matt Polster is back at training. So I think with him getting reignited inside this group, he brings something that Jackson Ewell doesn't bring. He brings something that Al-Hassan Yusuf doesn't bring. So I want to see Matt Polster in this lineup with an Al-Hassan Yusuf and see how he clicks. And I want them to experiment. Like I want to find positive instances where this team shows positive glimpses, but it's up to them to do it.
Exactly right. And there's a clear sign of lack of chemistry with Fingold, Ganago. The midfield, I think you didn't have a great game, especially like a lot of back passes. Like he was scared of moving forward, and Carlos Hill couldn't find it. He found Lingoni for one play on the right side, but like that was but Randall Baya, don't forget, I forgot right now. So, but there's some guys that have been playing that team forever now, and they haven't been able to find fight chemistry. So that's why I think Matt Post is going to be a huge upgrade when he comes back because he can calm the players down a little bit and set that footing in the midfield, which in my opinion has been very disappointed so far. Yusuf in the last game is in a good form, had a good preseason, but has he really done much this year? No, 2 games. I mean, he had 2 shots, but like I barely see him the whole game. He shows up, like makes a foul, and then does some passes, but like hasn't played as well as we expected him to do because we saw him playing well last year. And talking about seeing those guys play, I think there's a lot of people putting a lot of faith in Ganago, which I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm not. I'm just saying that Ganago never a proven goal scorer. He was never a proven game changer to like people to put that much faith on him right now at the beginning of the season. I don't know. I think people put way too much expectation in certain players. I don't know if you agree with me, but him, Lingoni was never a game changer. He played well, but like when was he a proven goal scorer to like create opportunities and score? He was never. Those 2 guys are Coliseum and Campania only.
No, I definitely agree with you, and I think a lot of these players are taking a lot on their plate, and even you mentioned Al Hassan Yusuf. I wouldn't say he had a great game against Columbus, but he was named man of the match, which is crazy. The New England Revolution named him man of the match from their squad, and I just didn't see it. I didn't, to be honest with you.
Definitely not.
It's difficult. There's a lot of players here that have talent, but who's going to be the one that comes and shows that they're here to perform? And I know a lot of people have been upset recently on Carlos Hill's production level and whatnot, but you could clearly tell in this group they want Carlos not on the ball as much, and if he does, it's quicker decisions. Whereas Carlos Hill in the past, he would come and drop in behind in the midfield or behind the center backs, collect the ball, and dribble 40 yards. We've only seen that once, maybe twice this entire offseason, preseason, and now 2 games into the regular season. So it's a different unit. It's a different tactical awareness. It's interesting, and I need to see more. Personally, I need to see more from the outside backs, especially with this roster. It starts in a 4-2-3-1, but immediately you see one of the outside backs joining the midfield and creating a 3-5-2. Usually it's the left back side, so that would be Will Sands. Eli Feingold has done it a few times, And I think I want to see more of Brandon By doing it and them being able to switch and do the rotation. Like Brandon By was the man of the match of week 1, but majority of his passes were negative. I didn't see him go forward once. So someone needs to step up in the offensive end and not only make a name to themselves, but prove that they're here to add something to this attack.
True, right? And for the record, I don't think Collins had a bad game at all. It's hard for the creation guy when first you got a left back that's not a left back. You got a right back that couldn't make a run. Like he made like 1 or 2 runs, especially in the first half. Your winger was out of place the whole game. Langoni didn't have a good game at all. In my opinion, one of the probably the worst ratings, if I had to give a rating, was for Langoni and especially the right side. Those guys can't cross. You can play the ball down the field as much as one, but they can't cross. And when you have a guy like Campana that it's good at heading the ball, and Ganago apparently too, uh, if you can't cross the ball, you're never going to be dangerous. So that's something that has to be fixed ASAP. Talking about Brandon By, right? He did not have a good game. That was a consensus, at least on the social media, also on the Nosa Radio broadcast. And I've seen a lot of people, and I include myself, Fango should have a go at right back for sure in the next game. I don't know what do you think, but that's my only consensus for the game against Philadelphia. Fango should be starting that game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just taking a look right now on FOTMob of the player ratings. So Brandon By had a 6.4 rating. It was tied for the second lowest rating. By Ceballos and Campagna all had 6.4. Or sorry, third lowest rating. By Ceballos and Campagna all had 6.4s. Feingold and Ivacic had 6.3s, and Luca Langoni had a 6.2. So that right side having a 6.2 and a 6.4 on the match rating is just not positive at all. I think it'd be good for Feingold to have an opportunity. It's just when. Which opponent are they going to do it against? And with Sands coming back, Sands was, I believe, limited to 30 minutes against Columbus. He got 25 and some change, essentially, with the added time. So it ended up being 35 minutes of play for him. As well as Peyton Miller, also still injured. So it's going to be interesting when the outside backs are all healthy and which direction they choose to go in. I agree with you. I think Feingold should get this opportunity. The next step is who goes at left back. Is it Sands? Is it Miller? Is it either of them?
Sands had a good game against Columbus, I think.
Yeah, Sands had a 6.5 rating. Him and Luis Diaz both had 6.5 ratings, which would be the I think the fourth highest. So in comparison to ratings, both Fofana and Carlos Gil had 7.2 match ratings. They led the team. Ganago had a 6.9 and Jackson Ewell had a 7.0. So in regards to the statistical analytics side, Fofana, Gil, Ewell, and Ganago performed the best against Columbus.
And also going off of Bob, if you combine both games, Campagna has the lowest rating with a 6.4, followed by Langoni with a 6.6 and Brandon By with a 6.8. So that right side plus the striker, which clear are the two players that haven't touched the ball or haven't worked out as we'd expect them to do so. Do you have any solution for the attack? I've been looking at the roster the whole day, but looking at the bench, which doesn't excite me as much. And I've been trying to find a solution, and I can't seem to find what can make the team work.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, the Revs have set up their roster in a smart way, so much so that come the summertime, they will be able to determine if they want to do the 2DP 4U22 route or the 3DP 3U22 route. By the summer, they'll also know whether or not Ignatius Ganago will be extended or not, and potentially named a designated player. So they're in the right spot roster-wise, but again, like you said, coming off the bench, you're kind of really only looking at a Noel Buck, a Jack Paniantu, a
Those
Luis
guys haven't seen the
Diaz,
field yet. Those two
Ma-
guys.
yeah, a Maxi Rudy. Personally, I would hope that New England. I want to see a tactical change. I would prefer a 4-4-2, very basic formation. I think you go with Maxi Ruti and Leo Campagna up top together. I think you go with Ganago on the left and Langoni on the right. And then I think you drop into a diamond midfield. I think you go with a Yusuf as a defensive mid or a Polster as a defensive mid and kind of articulate Carlos back to his free roam nature. I think that wouldn't hurt. Not only does it allow defensive stability, but they also have the ability to counter going forward and press high with numbers. So it's kind of hard to say who's going to make the difference. I think, again, their anticipation is that Heel, Ganago, Langoni, and Campagna are the guys. As well as you got to look for Tomas Chankalai, who's coming back in late April. A lot of decisions to be made still about this roster. It's set up in a really nice way, but again, lots of decisions to be made still.
So, if I was the head coach, first change is Finn goes for Brendo Bay, at least for now. And I would drop one of the attackers and go with an extra defensive midfield or an extra center back, right? Which for the game against Philadelphia, I'm not sure if the extra center back's needed, but I'll definitely drop Langoni and go for Noah Buck. I want to see Noah Buck play. He hasn't got the minutes yet. I don't know if Porter trusts him. I don't think he does, and that's something that I completely disagree with. I want to see Noah Buck making his debut, even if he's off the bench. I'm okay with that. But my lineup, my predicted lineup, or the lineup that I would like to see actually, it's Ivacic, Fingold, Ceballos, Fofana, and Ivacic, Fingold, Ceballos, Fofana, and Will Sands, and then you drop like an extra center mid there for defense. It can be a bad post. I don't know if it's going to be available for Saturday's game, and then you can leave you a little bit ahead to help Causio on the creation, and then have like two forwards like Campania on the right side and Ganago on the left side. I think that's going to be the ideal lineup, especially when you face teams that are very good, such as the Philadelphia Union. And just to end, I'm going to copy the guys from the Revolution recap, Revs recap. Shout out to them. Shout out to Greg, Sean, Andy, and also Tom. And I'm going to talk about the panic button. I just want to see, with 2 games into the season, but over a year of suffering and losses and a worse record in the Brad Fido, what's your panic button right now? And what do you think is going to happen to the New England Revolution throughout the month of March and also the weeks after that?
I think the biggest panic button is, will they score goals? That's kind of the easiest thing to point at, because defensively, I think they're sound. It's, will they score goals? This is a team that scored 37 goals last year. That's horrific. Okay, that's really bad. If they want to be a playoff contending team, they need to look at getting results. The playoff line is usually 44, 45 points. Okay, if you get that magic number, you're safe. That's 11 wins, that's 11 draws, and that's, I believe, 12 losses. That's it. That's all you need in this league. Can you do other numbers? Yeah, but if you think about it that way, if you're mid the whole way at 11, 11, and 12, like, you're a playoff team. You're at least a play-in team. 44 points gets you 8th place last year. So it's whether or not this group is going to score goals. But again, in comparison, that team that finished with 8th place, they had 48 goals. That's 11 goals more than New England's had last year. But at the same time, this New England team needs to stay defensively sound. They can't be a team like the Philadelphia Union last year, who scored 62 goals but allowed 55. Again, comparing it to last year, they scored 37 and allowed 74. That's terrible. This year they've had 0 goals, but they've only allowed 1 in 2 games. That's pretty good so far. But
Pretty good start.
can the offensive side of the ball click? That's the important thing. That's the panic button. If it comes to April and we don't have a goal yet, that's a concern. That's a huge concern. I would say even after this week is a concern. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it was, I think Frank Delapa said it in the booth the other day. 300, I believe, 84 minutes or 90 minutes along the line is the longest that New England's ever gone without a goal. They're already at 180 minutes. So once you get closer to that metric, the panic button starts to go off. And we haven't scored. We haven't gone this long without scoring ever. So again, scoring is the main factor. Defensively, I think they're good.
Yeah, they're gonna score a goal at some point. I don't think that's gonna be. I think that's gonna go for long. Of course, there is the PK that was not given. I don't think it was a PK. You already talked about it. You said you think it was a PK. I'm not gonna go into much details. I don't think there was an angle that showed me that wasn't. Uh, and I know people are mad about the overturning, but my problem is with the wins. This team has to start winning, has to start producing. If you score a goal here and there, that's not gonna mean anything to me if you can't win football games, right? So that's pretty much it. That's the I saw Julian Edelman talking the when they used to the State of the Union for the New England Patriots when the situation was bad. So that's a little bit of a State of the Union to talk about. He was talking about the Patriots, of course. I'm sorry, and here we are talking about the New England Revolution and the situation. I feel like I'm a little bit more radical about it. I feel like Port doesn't have that much time, and he got to figure out soon. So that's pretty much it. If you guys like and enjoy, please comment and subscribe. What you guys think? If you guys agree or not. Last time with Caleb was in, I wasn't allowed to put external links, but you guys gonna see the link for his Twitter and profile and Pros International down below on the in the description. Caleb, thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you for having me again. It was happy to be here, and obviously, yeah, happy to talk reps.
Okay, a little bit with the hard questions in the 2025 season. Guys, thank you so much and see you next video.